I used to think Christmas was about noise. The sound of wrapping paper tearing open. The laughter bouncing off walls when people talk over each other. The faint hum of carols in the background, almost drowned out by the clinking of glasses. But that year, my apartment was silent. Too silent. It wasn't supposed to be like that. I had imagined something different. Lights, people, maybe even the messy chaos of having nowhere to sit because the couch was already packed with friends. Instead, I was sitting alone at my kitchen table with nothing but the glow of a single string of cheap fairy lights that I bought out of guilt, just so it wouldn't feel so empty. You don't notice how loud loneliness is until it presses on your chest. Every creak in the apartment feels sharper. Every tick of the clock feels like it's mocking you. I kept telling myself it was just another night, but the world outside reminded me it wasn't. Families were out there celebrating, streets were buzzing with warmth, and I was in here, completely invisible. The truth is, I hadn't really spoken to anyone in weeks. People had plans, people had families, and me? I had excuses. I told them I was fine. I told them I didn't need to come along. But now, sitting there with a mug of lukewarm cocoa, I wondered if I'd been lying to myself the whole time. Then, something happened. Something so small it almost felt like my brain made it up. A sound. A knock at the door. I froze. Nobody ever knocked on my door unannounced. Not on Christmas night. My building was the kind where people kept to themselves, where neighbors barely exchanged more than a nod in the hallway. For a second, I thought maybe it was the pipes again, or maybe I was just imagining things. But then, another knock. Louder this time. I stood up, my heart racing in a way I couldn't explain. Who could it be? A neighbor? A mistake? Or something worse? My apartment wasn't exactly the kind of place that invited surprises. I hesitated, every instinct in me screaming not to answer. But curiosity always wins, doesn't it? I walked over to the door slowly, each step echoing louder in my head than it probably did on the floor. My hands were trembling as I reached for the handle. I thought about turning off the lights, pretending I wasn't home. But that knock, it didn't feel threatening. It felt desperate, like whoever was on the other side needed me to open it. When I finally pulled the door open, my breath caught in my throat. Standing there in the hallway was a woman I'd never seen before. She was in her 40s, bundled in a long coat dusted with snowflakes, her hair damp from the storm outside. And in her hands, she clutched a small, neatly wrapped box. She looked straight at me and whispered, "Please, I don't have anywhere else to go." I didn't answer right away. I just stood there, holding the door half open, the cold air rushing in and biting at my skin. She looked exhausted, like she'd been walking for hours in the snow. Her cheeks were red, her gloves damp, and her eyes carried a weight I couldn't place. For a second, I thought maybe she had the wrong apartment. Maybe she was lost. But when I asked, she shook her head slowly, like she was certain she was standing exactly where she meant to be. "Please," she said again. "Just let me sit for a minute." Something in her voice made me step aside before I even realized what I was doing. She walked in, clutching that small box against her chest like it was the only thing keeping her together. My apartment wasn't much to look at. Tiny kitchen, a worn couch, and a half-decorated fake tree I'd shoved in the corner. But when she sat down, it was like the room shifted. I noticed the way her shoulders slumped, the way she sighed as if she hadn't taken a deep breath in days. I tried to break the silence. "Do you want some cocoa?" She nodded without looking at me. I moved to the kitchen, heating the milk and stirring in the powder, my mind racing with questions. Who was she? Why here? Why me? I didn't even know her name. When I set the mug down in front of her, she finally spoke. "Thank you." Her voice was soft, but the kind that carried hidden cracks. She sipped slowly, both hands wrapped tight around the mug as if she needed the warmth to steady herself. I sat across from her, waiting. She must have felt it, the way I kept glancing at the box. "You're wondering about this," she said, lifting it slightly. I nodded, a little embarrassed to be caught staring. "It's not mine," she whispered, eyes darting away. "It belongs to someone else." The way she said it sent a chill down my spine. I wanted to ask who, but something about her tone told me she wasn't ready to explain. Instead, I asked her name. "Claire," she said quietly. "I'm Claire." And just like that, a stranger had turned into a person. A woman with a name, a secret, and a mysterious gift she refused to put down. The snow outside thickened, covering the windows in white. My apartment felt smaller, the walls closing in as if they too wanted to hear what she had to say. But she didn't say anything more. She just sat there, sipping cocoa, staring at the box like it held everything she couldn't say out loud. Finally, I leaned forward. "Claire, why did you come here?" Her hand trembled around the cup. Her lips parted like she was about to answer. And then, she stopped. Her eyes flicked toward the door, as if she was afraid someone might be listening. That was when I realized Claire wasn't just visiting. She was hiding. The room felt heavier the longer she stayed silent. I could hear the radiator hissing in the corner, fighting against the cold, but Claire's presence brought a different kind of chill. She sat there, her fingers tightening around the box as if she was afraid it might be taken from her. I tried again. "If you're in trouble, I can help. But you have to tell me what's going on." Her eyes darted up to mine, just for a second. There was fear there, yes, but also something else. Guilt. "You don't understand," she whispered. "If I tell you, you'll wish I hadn't." That sentence alone sent a knot twisting in my stomach. I leaned back, unsure if I even wanted to hear what came next. But at the same time, I couldn't let it go. She had come here, to me, for a reason. The snow pounded harder against the window, the world outside blurring into white. Inside, time seemed to slow down. I noticed small things, the way her coat was frayed at the sleeves, the faint bruise on her wrist, the way she winced whenever the pipes clanged. Whoever she was running from, it wasn't just in her head. "What's in the box?" I asked. Her grip tightened instantly. "Not yet." I almost laughed, a sharp sound born from nerves. "You show up at my door, ask for shelter, and you're holding something like that. And you won't tell me why? Do you know how insane that looks?" Her eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. "Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I asked to be here?" The crack in her voice silenced me. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. I could feel the tension stretching thin between us, like a thread ready to snap. She set the box down on the table carefully, almost reverently, and leaned back as if even touching it cost her strength. "I'm not safe out there," she said finally, her voice trembling. "And if I stay here, you might not be safe either." My chest tightened. Safe from what? From who? Before I could press further, a sudden sound made both of us jump. 3 sharp knocks. At my door. The knocks rattled through the apartment like gunshots. Sharp, deliberate, not at all like Claire's desperate tapping from earlier. She froze, her hand flying to the box as if instinct told her to protect it. I whispered, "Are you expecting someone?" She shook her head violently. Her lips moved, but no words came out. The color drained from her face, and in that moment, I realized whoever stood on the other side of the door wasn't a friend. The knocks came again, this time slower, heavier. Whoever it was, they weren't leaving. My breath caught as I glanced at the door, then back at Claire. "Who is it?" I hissed. Her eyes darted toward me, wide and frantic. "Don't answer. Please. If you do, everything will fall apart." The way she said it made my skin crawl. I backed away from the door, my pulse hammering in my ears. The room seemed to shrink, every corner filled with tension. The third round of knocks came, this time followed by silence. A silence so thick I could hear my own heartbeat. Claire's fingers trembled as she set the box back on the table, pushing it toward me. "If they come in here, you have to keep this safe. Do you understand?" I stared at it, the wrapping paper so neat, the ribbon tied perfectly. Something about it felt out of place in my messy apartment, like it didn't belong in the real world. My voice was barely a whisper. "What's inside?" Her jaw tightened. "The truth." Before I could react, the doorknob rattled. Slowly at first, then harder, metal scraping against metal. Someone was trying to force their way in. Adrenaline surged through me. I lunged for the door, pressing my shoulder against it, bracing it shut. Whoever was on the other side pressed back, testing the resistance. My entire weight barely kept it steady. "Claire," I gasped. "What the hell is happening?" Her answer was a broken whisper. "They can't get it. They can't." The banging stopped suddenly. My body sagged against the door, but the silence was worse than the noise. Whoever was out there was still there, waiting. I turned to Claire, desperate, angry, scared all at once. "Why me? Why here? Out of everyone, you chose my door." Tears slipped down her cheeks, and she shook her head as if trying to swallow her own words. Finally, she whispered, "Because you're the only one left who doesn't know." The words hit me like ice. Didn't know what? About her? About the box? About me? Before I could press her further, something slid under the door. A thin envelope, its edge brushing against the floor until it rested by my feet. I bent down slowly, my hands shaking as I picked it up. No writing on the front. Just plain white. I looked back at Claire, but she wasn't looking at me anymore. She was staring at the envelope like it was a ghost. And then, with a voice that barely carried above a whisper, she said, "Don't open it." Not yet. I held the envelope in my hand, the paper thin and almost weightless, but it felt heavier than anything I'd ever touched. Claire's eyes stayed locked on it, her breathing uneven. I thought maybe it was fear, until I noticed something else. She wasn't just afraid of what was inside. She was afraid of me holding it. "Claire," I whispered, "what is this?" She shook her head. "It was never supposed to reach you." Before I could ask what she meant, the banging on the door started again, but this time, from the window. My blood ran cold. We were on the 4th floor. Glass rattled. A shadow moved across the frosted pane, deliberate and slow. Whoever was out there had climbed up, and now they were trying to get in. I stumbled back, clutching the envelope tighter. Claire stood, the box still in her hands, tears streaming freely now. "You don't understand," she said, her voice breaking. "They're not here for me. They're here for you." The window latch snapped. And in that instant, I realized everything I thought I knew about this night was about to shatter. The window burst inward with a crash, shards of glass scattering across the floor like ice. I stumbled back, shielding my face, while Claire clutched the box as if it were her own heartbeat. A figure pulled itself through the frame. A man, tall and broad, his coat dark with snow, his face hidden beneath the shadows. He didn't hesitate. His eyes went straight to Claire. "Give it to me," he growled. Claire shook her head, backing against the wall. "You can't have it. Not tonight." I stepped between them without thinking, adrenaline surging through me. "What's in that box? What the hell is going on?" The man's gaze snapped to me, cold and sharp. "You really don't know, do you? She didn't tell you." Claire's voice cracked. "Don't listen to him." But it was too late. He reached into his coat and pulled out, not a weapon, but a photograph. He tossed it across the floor, and it slid to my feet. When I looked down, my breath caught. It was me. A photo of me, standing in my own apartment, taken from outside the window. My stomach turned to ice. "Everything," the man said, "was to get it to you." I looked at Claire, desperate for answers. She was crying now, shaking her head. "I didn't want this for you. I tried to keep it away. But the gift, it's yours." The man lunged forward, grabbing at the box. Instinct took over. I snatched it from Claire's hands and held it tight against my chest. He froze, his eyes widening, as if I had just armed a bomb. For a moment, no one moved. The snow outside swirled through the broken window, the cold biting at our skin. The box pulsed in my hands, not literally, but with a weight, a presence, as though whatever was inside was waiting to be revealed. Claire whispered, "Now you have to choose. Open it, or run." I stared at her, then at the man, then down at the perfectly wrapped gift that had somehow become the center of everything. My chest heaved, torn between terror and curiosity. And then, without warning, the box in my hands gave a faint, unmistakable sound. A ticking. The ticking filled the room, steady, undeniable, like the heartbeat of something hidden. I gripped the box tighter, my mind screaming to drop it, to throw it out the shattered window, but some instinct told me not to. Claire's eyes never left mine, shining with both fear and sorrow. "It isn't what you think," she whispered. "It's not a bomb. It's a countdown. A choice." The man snarled, "Open it. Do it now." I wanted to demand answers, to scream at both of them, but my body moved on its own. Slowly, with trembling fingers, I tore away the ribbon. The paper fell in pieces to the floor. Beneath it was a plain wooden box, carved with symbols I didn't recognize. My thumb brushed against the latch, and for a moment, everything went silent. When I opened it, the ticking stopped. Inside wasn't money, or weapons, or anything that made sense. It was a small collection of photographs, dozens of them. Each one was of me. My childhood, my teenage years, my adult life. Moments no one else should have captured. Moments I hadn't even remembered until I saw them frozen on glossy paper. My throat closed. How do you have these?" Claire stepped forward, her voice breaking. "Because I was asked to protect them. To protect you." The man cursed under his breath and lunged, but Claire shoved the box back into my hands. "Run," she said, her voice fierce now. Run, and don't look back. But I didn't. I stood my ground, staring at her, at the stranger who had knocked on my door carrying my life in a box. Why me? Why tonight? She gave me a sad smile. Because Christmas is when people remember what they've lost. And you needed to remember what you still have. The man froze, his rage faltering. Something in Claire's words struck him too, though I didn't understand why. He backed away, muttering curses, before climbing back out the window into the storm, disappearing into the night. The silence that followed was deafening. The snow drifted in, settling on the carpet, melting into small puddles. Claire stood trembling, her strength finally fading. I wanted to ask her to stay, to explain everything, but when I turned, she was gone. No sound, no trace. Just the box, still in my hands. I sat on the floor surrounded by pieces of wrapping paper, photos scattered around me. Each one was proof of something I thought nobody noticed, moments of my life that mattered. To someone. To her. And in that lonely apartment, on a night I thought I'd spend forgotten, I realized I wasn't invisible after all. Someone had been watching, remembering, keeping me safe in ways I couldn't understand. That Christmas didn't give me the chaos I'd imagined. The laughter, the family, the noise. Instead, it gave me something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope.